Cleveland Clinic says that taking vitamin C may shorten the symptom severity of COVID-19 by up to a day. In this One Belly Wednesday, I want to go over a clinical report that Cleveland Clinic, both in Ohio and in Florida, came up with as they compared high dose vitamin C and zinc to normal care. A really, really well designed clinical trial. Cleveland Clinic, who has a great reputation in the medical community, self-funded a study where they gave patients 8,000 milligrams, I would consider that high dose, of vitamin C, ascorbic acid, and about 50 milligrams of zinc. They randomized this out so that some patients just got the vitamin C, some people just got the zinc, some people got both, and some people got just usual care. Now, in the conclusions of their study, what they said is they didn't see a clinical significance in the results between the people who got usual care and the people who did the supplementing. But if you actually dig into the data, there's some really interesting things there. So they used something that was a really cool criteria, in my opinion. They came up with the main symptoms that people would have of COVID. And unfortunately, about halfway through the study, the CDC revised some of those guidelines. And so they revised their guidelines when they were doing the questionnaires. I don't necessarily know that this had a major impact. I wrote the corresponding author to ask about this, but I haven't received a response back on it. I just think it's kind of interesting that as they were going through, they got about halfway through the study and then they decided to stop data collection. And so what I'm curious about is as I was seeing their results, I would agree that definitely not seeing a major change in the endpoints, which is complete resolution, would probably warrant, hey, listen, let's not spend a whole bunch of money following up with the study because, man, they took a lot of resources. They had a lot of doctors participating. Not a ton of patients. I mean, they only had about 40 in each treatment group, between 40 and 50. So it wasn't like it was a whole lot of people that they had in the study, but still, probably underpowered initially for coming up with the conclusions. But according to the clinical trial criteria that they use, something I had to research, like why they did what they did. They usually do this for cancer trials. According to their data, they said, nope, the study doesn't need to go any longer. We aren't seeing any statistical significance. But the funny part was when you go into the charts, and the charts tell a completely different story. They came up with two graphs, one graph and I guess one chart. And in that chart, as they came up with this really new way of looking at, did your symptoms improve to about 50%, they found that the people who were taking vitamin C, both alone and also with zinc, had a reduction in the time to 50% symptom resolution. So what that means is as they were talking about the symptoms they had, they would rank it on a scale of 0 to 4 for severity. And the people who ranked it as 50% improved, they made that chart. They found that about 5.5 days is usually what people who are taking the supplements averaged. People who got usual care got better 50%, about 6.7 days. So as I'm looking at as a parent, right, and I'm trying to figure out, hey, listen, is there something that I need to do in order to get my kid back to school earlier? As I'm looking at, symptom improvement, because that's the benchmark right now for return to school, I would take a full day, right? But in the power of the statistics, they didn't see that had a statistical significant meaning. So that's where we get into the difference between statistical significance and clinical relevance. It's something I've talked about in previous One Belly Wednesdays. It's really important to understand because statistical significance is a math question. It's if you give me a cup of hot coffee, which I like at a 8 or 9 out of 10, and a cup of lukewarm room temperature coffee, which I'll tell you I'll still drink, but I'm going to like it at about a 5. Given 30 days of giving me both conditions, you can definitely tell there's a difference between whether you give me hot coffee or room temperature coffee, right? But if you add almond milk into my coffee, and I like almond milk, and I'm going to give you, with a hot coffee, that might be a 9 or a 10, and you compare hot coffee black versus hot coffee with almond milk, you give that to me randomized about over 30 days, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of difference between the two conditions. And so that may not meet what we would call statistical significance. However, does it matter to me whether or not you put almond milk in my coffee? I will tell you, yes, it does. There's a clinically meaningful difference between whether you put almond milk in my coffee or you give me black hot coffee. And so I think the same is true for this study too. Both the authors were like, yep, not a significant difference if you take vitamin C with high dose. In fact, some people had gastric discomfort, diarrhea, that sort of thing. Well, yeah, if you do high dose vitamin C, you're supposed to do it to what we call bowel tolerance. And it sounds like some of the people in the group actually got the appropriate level of vitamin C in their bodies. Some people probably could have taken more, quite honestly. So when we understand that, and again, they're taking it orally, not doing IV vitamin C, which the researchers again said was kind of the standard that they were looking at to determine whether or not vitamin C had an immune system impact. I don't know why they didn't do vitamin C other than we're in the middle of a pandemic. They needed to conserve resources. They didn't want a bunch of people coming in the hospital to get IVs. They wanted to take it daily and see how they went over a course of 28 days. I really do think that the ability for them to see an improvement in there really was there. You also see it in the chart that they had. So I'll put a link into the article. If you scroll down and you actually look at the chart that they have for all the way to 28 days when they have symptom resolution, you can see somewhere between day 6 and day 8, the vitamin C group had a huge drop in their symptoms, and that maintained a gap all the way through to the end of the study. Again, as we're talking about statistical significance and clinical relevance, if I'm looking at a faster drop for people who are taking vitamin C, especially if I was going to recommend as a doctor that they dose themselves to bowel tolerance, then I would have to say that this result actually in the study suggests further research. I would say that I'm very, very grateful for Cleveland Clinic and their bravery and courage in self-funding the study, because not a whole lot of clinics will go ahead and do a trial like this. But they went ahead and did it. And I would say that the results probably need to be replicated. I think they set a great framework for a clinical trial. I think other places probably could improve on the delivery of what they gave to the patients. What our experience is the delivery of how vitamin C goes into your body does matter. I'm also really commending them for their choice to go up to 8,000 milligrams. Not many studies of vitamin C go all the way up that high. But I will tell you from both personal experience and talking with other of my patients, some of them have been really sick, have taken up to 20 grams so 20,000 milligrams of vitamin C, and their body didn't have bowel tolerance at all. That's a pretty normal phenomenon for humans whenever they're stressed or ill, to actually be able to tolerate more vitamin C in their system than they can when their body isn't under that kind of stress. So yeah, I'd be really interested to follow this up later on. Really well-designed study though, and it gives a lot of people a lot of really good insight for those of us who are in research on how to answer this question about how we help people recover from something like COVID. So again, if you have questions about this kind of stuff, I love reading them in the comments. We share this kind of information on One Belly, Two Brains every single week. And the reason that we do this and the reason that we submit the research to you guys is because there's a lot of questions about what's good information out there. This is a really well-designed study. It was done by a very reputable place, and the interpretation is always the devil in the details. People like me who actually read the research instead of just reading the abstracts like to dig into that a little bit and ask some questions about the conclusions authors make, and see how we can apply it, because it's important for us in clinical practice to really understand what's going on. So we share this every week on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Instagram TV. And I hope you enjoy this. If you do enjoy it, give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe to us, share it. We need this information out for more people in order to help. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Until then, I hope you